Hey, fifth grade families. I just want to go over composition with you really quickly. I don't want this video to drag out, but I want to make sure you have the important information that you need to help your student be successful in composition for fifth grade. Um, Sorry, I realize I smack on these videos. I'm going to try not to do that. Okay, so you have your composition binder. I want to start with, I think by the time you see this video, we will be wrapping up just a short little composition activity kind of project that we started. This was just to kind of stretch our legs for composition, get writing again, get familiar with just the process. I'll explain everything in class, and then there will be some satellite days work for it. But this is a low stress project. So if you're in the middle of that right now, just know that I'm not going to be grading this heavily. I am going to be looking for complete sentences and to make sure that it is actually a narrative. Of course, it's about a water cycle droplet or a water droplet, so it's fiction. I thought it would be just kind of a fun way to kick off the unit before we jump into our personal narrative. I think most of the grades do a personal narrative, and they usually take about 10 weeks. We're going to cram ours into 7 or 8 weeks so that we can wrap up at week 10. And then when we come back from fall break, we'll have time to start our argument, opinion paper, at least get the foundation laid for it so that when we come back after winter break, we can jump right into that paper. We'll hit the road running on that. So in your composition binder, on the assignment sheet, I will clearly explain when I want you to get involved. You don't have to be involved every day for composition, but if you want to be, you know your student, if they need you to be involved every day, then that's fine. But I will specify on the assignment sheet, sit down with a parent, read this paragraph to them, have them read it back to you, things like that. The very first assignment is going over the rubric with your student, so it does include you, and maybe having them go over their small moments that we brainstorm about in class. So each personal narrative, it starts with a small moment that we drag out over or turn into a paper. These small moments, excuse me, my voice is not used to talking so much. This small moment, what that means is if your child wants to do a paper on their trip to Disney World, well, that is too big. That is too broad of a topic. It needs to be narrowed down to a small moment. So maybe their favorite ride at Disney, their favorite character, or a topic within that, like meeting the characters was my favorite part of my trip to Disney World, and then they stretch out their narrative with that. I'm tying this paper into our history unit. We've just started the Age of Discovery, Age of Exploration, and History. And the way I'm tying that in is that they're going to come up with, their small moment is going to be tied to a discovery. So I'm calling it a small moment of discovery. So they can choose something new that they've discovered. A lot of kids have tried new things since COVID. They've tried new foods. They've tried new skills, hobbies. They've had different and new experiences that this quarantine has kind of forced upon us. I don't want this whole broad, like, oh, exploration. I don't know if I have a big enough or an exciting enough thing for them to write about, or if they feel that way. Help them really see that it could be just making a new friend and what that was like, or experiencing a new form of technology. Maybe they got familiar with Zoom or FaceTiming and they hadn't done that before, and that was a new discovery for them. Just keep in mind that we're going to be working on this small moment of discovery for weeks and weeks and weeks. So it needs to be something that has enough pizzazz or enough exciting elements to it that it can be dragged out. It also needs to have some story to it. There needs to be a bit of a struggle or an aha moment, something that they learned, a turning point within it. So just so it doesn't turn into just listing details, if that makes sense. So like I said, the very first assignment will be going over the rubric. So make sure you familiarize yourself with that in the composition binder. I will assign, like, we'll do maybe a brainstorming activity in class, and then I'll have them go home and do something similar at home. So we will have modeled it in class. I'll model it with something they're familiar with. A lot of times I use a fairy tale, like I mentioned, and that way they don't have to spend a lot of energy thinking about it in class. They can just naturally do it. They can write a new intro to the Three Little Pigs. They think that's really fun. Or an alternate ending to the Three Little Pigs. They can add dialogue into the story. They can add in descriptive words. They can stretch their sentences. They can make strong verbs in that. So and then when they get home and they work on those things that we've talked about in class, we've done it. They can look back at what we did in class and then apply that to their paper. What else do I want to talk about with you about this? I model good literature for them. I show them examples. I use a lot of picture books to show examples of good writing that use these different elements in them. We also just have to get writing. So there will be a day that Friday before the Labor Day, or I'm not sure what it would be for Tuesday, Thursday, if it would be the Thursday before Labor Day, where I'm going to have them come to class and just write. Because we can't add all these cool things to the story until they've actually written the body of their paper. We will spend a whole week on their intros. We'll spend a whole week on their conclusion, and then things in the body paragraphs. I'll kind of tie some of those things together. We won't spend like an entire week on strong verbs. We'll add that into the lessons that day. We'll do 2 or 3 at a time. Okay, yes. So the rough draft, I think I'll have turn in on September the 30th or October 1st. And then I want to get those back to you guys so that you can edit and revise them and know my expectation really well. I'll try to have little mini conferences in a COVID-safe way with them so that they understand what I'm looking for. If I marked up their papers, their feelings aren't going to be hurt about it because they're going to understand why I marked them up and what I want them to do. And then they're going to edit and revise them. I'm going to get them back in time to grade them and hand them back to you at parent-teacher conference. That's my goal. We'll see if we can get it all in. Okay? Let's talk about kids that would prefer to do Google Docs or type it out over handwriting. That's fine with me. I don't have a preference. If they want to do it, if they want to type it, that's fine. The problem we ran into last year is that some students would just forget to print off what they worked on. And I want them to be bringing their work to class for a couple reasons. It provides accountability. They need to work on this specific thing. They need to bring it to class the next day. I'm going to look at it. If they want to share, I will have them share what they worked on, maybe their intro or whatever it was. We'll have an opportunity to share. So I'll even specify on the assignment sheet, come prepared to share your work with the class. It may just be that you share it with your table partner that day and they do some peer editing or some peer dialogue over it. So back to if your student wants to type it, that's fine with me. I'm happy to. I know not every kid wants to sit and they've written so much they don't want to write more. It also just is good computer skill development and all that. Google Docs is a good one for them to start familiarizing themselves with because that's what they'll use in the upper school a lot. And if for some reason we end up at home and we're distance learning, a Google Doc is a great way for them to go because they can share their work with me that way and I can edit it and get it, and they see what I edited and they can do their changes. So it works out really nicely that way. So anyway, I would encourage you to have them start utilizing the Google platform in that way. And I think that's it. I love your kids. I know we're off to a great start. I want to show you the class because they're the classroom. is full of their work, and they're doing a beautiful job. Um, I'm excited that they're in my class, and I felt like there was one more thing I wanted to say about composition. I can't think of it. Okay. If you have questions, email me. If I think of what I wanted to say, I will tag it to the end of this. And I will see y'all later. Bye. I remembered what I was going to say. If your student is typing it, help them pick a font that's not just so cray-cray. Help them make it be a good size that I can read, but not so big that it's giant and takes up the paper. It doesn't have to be Times New Roman 12, but maybe no, not too loopy, not too big, not too small, that kind of thing. If you could just help them pick one that's not too distracting, but I don't mind them having some fun with the fonts. Okay, that's it. Bye.